Hi, I'm Adam Lambert, and I'm great company, if I do say so myself.
It's amazing that you're the frontman for Queen. This is like, yeah, but it is because, and I read somewhere there where you sort of almost say that like Freddie Mercury is almost a part of you in certain ways.
I wish I had known him, you know? I feel like the more I learn about him, like I was watching something the other day about like all of his friends in the 80s that he lived with. He lived in this place called Garden Lodge. And it was like 85. There's like all this video footage and he had like 6 guys living there, all gay, and they all had like nicknames for each other that were like women's names. And like they lived in this sort of communal village together. And the way they talk about him, like it was the happiest he ever was. Like he loved it. He was so happy he could be himself. And like just seeing that and seeing the way he was in some of these little clips, I'm like, I get that guy. I get him. Like I feel like I have some kinship there. I can see that. I understand that guy. Because that's how I am with my friends. I'm like, come over, spend the night. You know, if there's friends from out of town, I'm like, you know, you can use the guest room. And like we're very like family oriented house, you know, and I just seeing that side of him was like really cool. Seeing like the human side of him, the social side of him, not only the rock god, not only the brilliant musician and vocalist, but like getting a glimpse into sort of his private life is really cool.
I mean, in terms of shoes to fill, they're pretty big ones.
Have you seen my shoes?
I haven't. They're
I got
big.
like 6-inch heels, baby. Come
big.
on. That's why the shoes are so big. I'm like, well, if I'm gonna fill Freddie's shoes, I gotta bring platforms. For fuck's sake.
but that is, and again, this goes back to your risk taking. That is an icon. As you said, not only just his voice, the way he was, what he stood for, all those different things, and then and you come in and blow it out the water as well in such a great way. How do you get asked to do something like that?
Well, I sang Bohemian Rhapsody from Queen
First
as
audition.
my Idol audition.
Yeah.
So like, I think I got on their radar somehow through that. And then they were asked to come sing at the finale. So I sang We Are the Champions with them at the finale. And then when we met and it was like...
Was that an insane moment?
It was so surreal, but I was so wrapped up in the finale that I didn't even know what was happening.
Yeah.
I was completely like I was very overwhelmed with that week because there was just so much to do.
Anxiety or?
Yeah, a bit of anxiety towards the end, but also just being overwhelmed. There was a lot of material. There was a lot going on. So it was very surreal. I was kind of floating through it a bit.
So it's more like, oh, hey, yes, fine, we're doing this.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
I'm like, this will hit me later.
Yeah.
And it did. And I was like, you know, I remember getting home like 2 nights later, just finally getting to veg out in front of the TV and, you know, have a glass of wine. And I was like, did that just happen? Like, what is life right now, you know? And it was like, it slowly started dawning on me that last couple of weeks before the finale. I was like, things are going to change. This is a big shit. This is like a big left turn in my life. This is going to change everything. I think my mom actually said, she's like, you know, everything's going to change. Everything's going to be different. I was like, Mom, stop freaking me out. But she was right. Everything did change. And then, so yeah, with them, we stayed in touch and they asked like shortly after, like, hey, we should do something. But I had so many commitments with the show. You know, you get funneled into their management company. I had an album to make, a tour with the other American Idols to do that summer, my own album, my own tour. So like once the dust settled on my own first project, my album, an opportunity came up to perform with them here in the UK for the EMAs, I think.
Yeah.
To do a medley.
And it was MTV.
Yeah. And I was like, fuck yeah, of course I'll do that. Yeah, I'm honored. And we did it. And the response was mixed.
Give me the response.
From the band, they were great. Like we clicked right away. Like we got along from day one, which was very cool. I always felt very safe with them. Fans online were, you know, but we're not Freddie. I'm like, he's not here. Like, what do you want me to say? You know, I think that there's always been this sentiment of like, he's no Freddie. It's like, no shit, man. Like, I know that, you know, I'm just singing the songs. And I learned really quickly to kind of have to like rationalize it with myself because I'm like, well, no, of course I'm not Freddie, but he's not with us. Brian May and Roger Taylor have created incredible pieces of music. They still want to get up on stage.
Yeah.
They want to perform.
Yes.
And they should have every right to perform. and they need a singer to perform the songs with. I'm like, yes, I can do that. I can help, you know? So, you know,
And I love that because most people, I just love that. That fearlessness. It's insane, dude.
Well, and
because,
I think there is a requirement to get on stage and sing the songs of Freddie Mercury and Queen. You have to be sort of cocky. Like, it's the character of the song. Like, most of those songs are a lot of like peacocking kind of bravado. It's like that was that era of rock and roll. Like, you couldn't be like, is this okay? You know, it wasn't like shoegaze. It was like da da da, you know, owning it and being strong and powerful and confident. And so I always get on stage and like that's like the character of the song. That's the like energy of it. I have to step into that space. Even if I'm completely terrified and feeling nervous, I'm like, but that's required. Like, that's what this music is. So in a way, it's always been like almost like playing a role.
Yeah.
You know, even though there's a lot of me in there, it's sort of like me through that lens, you know, me taking on that energy, that emotion.
What is the song that you sing and you're just like, this feels good?
I love Another One Bites the Dust. I love that song. It's just it's so sexy. And it's power and it's hard. It's a hard song to sing.
Why is it?
When it goes up the octave, it's like a very athletic vocal.
Which bit do they what is it?
And they gonna get along without you when I go. You know, the real bitey part. It's high and it's like bite.
I can get that high. Give me the note.
I don't know what it is right now. I know at the top of my head.
You ready?
Yeah, I'm ready for you. Are you gonna sing right now? Are you really?
Yeah.
Do you sing? No. Okay. So are you gonna?
Yeah, I'm gonna try. Okay, wait. Ready for this?
I think so.
I don't think I can do it in front of you. I actually. Oh God.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like that. That's not the song. I think that was Star Wars.
But it's. I mean, what an amazing thing to be able to do and to step into those shoes and to be.
It's a dream.
Yeah.
It's a fucking honor. Really, it really has been, and it's been over 10 years that we've been on the road together. So it's evolved for me personally too. Like, I think if I look back at the first couple times we worked together, I was like very nervous and overcompensating like hell. Like, I was hitting every note I could. I was like, I want to change this note. I'm going to change this. I want to scream this one. I had so much energy because it was all like sort of adrenaline and nerves. Cut to the last like 5 years of touring with them, where I feel like I've settled in a different way.
Man,
like, I feel like,
long, doesn't it?
Yeah, it took me a long time.
Yeah,
and that's just growing up and becoming a more seasoned performer and musician. And I can look back, you know, about 5 years ago and be like, okay, that's the sweet spot, like where I trusted myself more and I didn't have to like overdo it. I didn't have to throw everything at every song. Learning that as a singer is a real moment when you're like, I don't have to hit every high note. I don't have to like do runs and melismas on everything, because you learn what pulls the audience in versus what pushes them away. And I think for a younger singer or somebody in their art where they feel they have to prove something, like, look what I can do, that kind of doesn't pull the audience in the same way just trusting it does, you know?
What's interesting, you grew up in San Diego near the beach, which is lovely. Your parents are together. They were quite liberal. They were great. So that drive to be on stage and to want to entertain and be in front, where does that come from then?
I don't know. I clearly wanted attention. But I think it was an outlet for all the energy I had. Like, I was a pretty vivacious child, like hyper, you know, I had like a lot of things to say. I was very talkative at an early age. Like, I started talking at like 2 and my parents were like, whoa, this kid's like full sentences at 2. And so, yeah, it was like, I had a lot to say. And they even put me in like a Montessori preschool thing, like for advanced, like preschool thing. And I didn't take to that because I didn't like being told what to do. I remember, I actually don't remember this, but I was told that there was one thing we had to do where it was like shapes into like the corresponding holes, like in a board, you know, to kind of learn geometry and shapes. And I just couldn't figure it out. I was having the hardest time with it. And the teacher was like, no, you need to stay and do it until you finish. And they had already called the bell for recess or whatever. And I'm like, no, but I want to go with the kids and play. And she's like, no, you have to finish. I threw a tantrum. I tore apart the learning center. And I had some anger management problems, I think, at that age. So talk about therapy. I had to go to a child therapist.
Get out of here.
Yeah. And
how old are you at this
learn
point?
how to like deal with counting to 10 and like not lose my temper. I was probably like 5.
What? Because you were so frustrated.
Yeah.
Because you there was so much energy within you that you didn't know how to release it. So then
And
when
I
you were
couldn't figure
controlled-
out how to do this blockboard bullshit. And so I was angry. Yeah.
So did you get in trouble a lot as a kid?
I got in trouble a little bit, but then with going to this little child therapist person, I think at that age, she taught me how to deal with my temper, how to deal with other kids. And I think it was really amazing that I got that help at that age because it made me much nicer and more patient with people later on.
Really?
Yeah.
5 is that's a young age to be doing it.
Yeah, I couldn't deal with it. It was like I was stressed out. Like it was like the pressures of this advanced learning situation were just too much for me. And shortly thereafter, my parents went, let's put him in regular preschool. let's not. And that was the therapist at the time said, like, maybe just like put him in regular school because he's actually just probably wants to make friends.
What was? Did you enjoy school? What was it like growing up? Did you like school?
I loved elementary school, and then when I got to like middle school, which is what we call it, which is grade 6, 7, 8.
Yeah.
That's when everyone's going through puberty, and the boys and girls start acting weird toward each other, and so therefore, for me being the closeted gay boy that I was, the boys started treating me like shit. So I felt very much a loner in those years. I kind of withdrew a little bit in school. I didn't really know how to socialize with kids in school. I was at a public high school.
Yeah.
But I still had this theater group that I was in on weekends. And that theater group was my safe space. And those were where my friends were. And that's where I got respect for what I was able to do. And I think if it hadn't have been for that, I probably would have been a really sad kid.
It's funny, right? How how we always have to play these different characters all the time in life,
Yeah.
to protect ourselves
Uh-huh.
a lot of the time.
Yeah.
And so then when it comes to performance, you can be much better performer because you've learned to play different roles.
Yeah, that makes sense, actually. It makes a lot of sense.
And that's quite hard because if you then withdraw at school and you can't be your true self, it does. It makes you sad.
Yeah. And having that theater thing on the weekends was like the ultimate escape for someone like me. I needed that. I needed to be able to become something else and be celebrated for it. Because that was around that age is when I started realizing my sexuality. And this is, early 90s. And so I'm looking around going, what? There's hardly anything on television to understand. There's no conversations happening. I mean, when I think about what kids are dealing with today, it's so much easier to figure out what you might be because there's all these examples of it. If a kid has a smartphone, he goes on Instagram and finds other queer people, watches a TV show. It's amazing. And it's a wonderful time for that. And of course, there's all sorts of things that we're still being challenged by in our community. And there's a lot of pushback, but it is a lot better than what it was. I mean, it was like a giant question mark. Like, what? Like even the word gay, I'm like, what is that? Like, what does that mean? Like, what is it? It was terrifying.
That is really
and exciting all at the same time. The locker room at that age was very fascinating.
But it's true that you're so right though, because the internet and everything has done amazing things. It's done terrible things, but it's done amazing things as well to open up this conversation and we can find things out. But questioning your sexuality at that age, that if you have nowhere to turn to, that's a lonely place as well.
Yeah.
And scary, right? How old are you at this point?
That would have been like probably 6th grade. So I'm thinking, what is that, 12? Something like that? 12-ish? Yeah. And, the boys' bodies are changing. So hormones are flying. People are getting mean and getting weird. And it's like a weird time. Adolescence is a strange time.
So what do you do then? Who do you turn to? How do you have that conversation? Is it all internal?
I think a lot of it was internal, like a lot of it. I spent a lot of time alone during those years and like kind of learned to love that alone time. I would get really into my imagination. I would go home after school, like my parents both worked. So my brother and I were, what do they call them, latchkey kids. So like we had keys to go home and we were at home on our own. And my brother would be doing it, playing video games probably. And I was like in my room listening to show tunes and playing dress up. Like it was like I was that queen, And it was that was it was like a safe space. I could do that. I had the space to just explore and to sing and to make believe and to wear costumes and to get in the mirror and learn how to, it was very like, that was a really important time actually, now looking back, is that it just let me play.
Give it to me, because I really want to understand this, because you're one person when you're at school, right? So you're
quiet.
You're quiet. You're reserved.
Quiet, yeah.
Because you can't. I've followed your career. You walk into the room. You're larger than life, right? But you are. You give off this great energy, and that's who you are, right? But then when you're younger, you have to hide all of that.
I definitely had to dim.
Yeah, you have to dim your light. It's exactly that.
But it was weird because up until those grades in elementary school, I was really open and really social and really bubbly and all that. But it was just, you could feel the shift of people, of the other kids and how they started treating each other. I could feel it. Kids started getting mean.
But I think this is really important for someone to hear, right? Because you're in your bedroom, that's where you could perform, that's where you could sing, that's where you could dress up, that's where you could release. But no one else saw that. It was just you. You didn't.
It was very private. Yeah, it was very private. I mean, and I was going into like my mom's closet and wearing her clothes. I was putting on some of my dad's clothes. I was like living. And I remember the first time my mom got mad that I put on some of her clothes. She was annoyed because I had like ripped something, and she was like, "Look." And I was playing with her makeup. I was like messing with her lipstick, but I like fucked up the lipstick, And I remember her coming into me and she goes, "Look, I don't care what the fuck you wear. I just don't fuck up my shit." Like, it was basically her very eloquent, way of telling me.
Because you were ripping her shit.
Yeah, she's like, I'm not mad that you're putting on my clothes, but like but I am mad that you're putting on my clothes. And I was like, well, and it came down to the makeup. She was like, "Stop messing with my lipstick." I'm like, "Then buy me some of my own." And so I asked for I remember it was a theatrical makeup kit, because, it was all kind of theater based. And I had these books that I geeked out on from the library about like how to do like old age makeup and stage makeup and opera makeup and all this stuff. And so I was like, well, I need the stuff that I can make these faces with. So she drove down and got me like a professional theater makeup kit from Ben Nye Makeup. Yeah, I remember that.
How funny is you remember it though?
I remember how it smelled. It was terrible. That makeup smelled like crap, but I was still so excited to put it on. And it was my first, like, it was like a kit, and it had all the little cream makeups with like and like cream bases, and they were, full of, castor oil, and they probably like broke me out like a mother. There was brushes in there. There was certain sponges. And I just remember just being like, oh, whoa, the Holy Grail. Because I'd been so obsessed with Halloween every year. I mean, I wanted every day to be Halloween.
But why? Give it to me. Why?
Dressing up. I loved dressing up. I liked transforming. I liked being somebody different. I liked changing myself. It was so fun to look in the mirror and change the way your face looked. I loved it.
Because you become a different character. Because, why? What is the fascination with dressing up? What is it? Because we love it. And we all do as adults. Because it's play, because it's fun, because it's fantasy.
Play, it's creative. It's control. It's being able to control something. And I think people do like the way that feels. I think as I got a little older, I think when my body started changing, I started putting on weight. I was breaking out. Yeah. And it was funny because at that point, makeup and costume became a way to hide the parts of myself I didn't like when I looked in the mirror. When I started learning how to play with makeup, I was like, oh, I like the way that looks. I don't like the way my natural face looks at all. I love it, but now I like it. It was a little mask that I got to wear. But I didn't dare wear it to school, because then I would have been made fun of, and I couldn't deal with that.
This is what I find so fascinating, right? Yeah. Is that we just, and I think we all have that thing. Like we can't bear at that age to show our real selves. Yeah. Because we have to fit in. Yeah. That's what we have to be. Yeah. We can't be this, because that's...
Well, and the last thing I wanted was to be like singled out and like made an example of, or that was the age where it's just like, I just wanted to blend in. Please don't look at me, But then I got to high school, and things started to change. Because in high school, you're a little older, you're getting into your teenage years, and I think activities start forming, and you have like clubs that you can do in school, and like that's where I found like the drama club, and I was also in like a choir type program.
Yeah.
So I was singing with other kids, and I got into like photography for a little while and some art classes, and like those were the areas where I felt like, okay, now we're being recognized for what we can do, what we're able to make and create. And there became a certain amount of respect that was built within that, and admiration. And that competitive part of me was like, well, I can do this really well. And it earned me validation, you know? And so all of a sudden it was like I was finding spaces in school where I was celebrated.
Yeah.
You know?
Do you know, that's why the creative industry in schools is so important.
So important.
Man, and it's crazy that they're just, you know, especially in the UK, funding is being removed from it.
It's the same in the States, yeah.
But it's
terrible.
crazy
Yeah,
that's
it's terrible,
happening.
yeah.
Because that is a place, like we're talking about now, where you find yourself, you find your tribe.
Well, and I completely agree with you. And
Yeah.
it's why is it any different than having sports in school? For some kids, that does it for them. Sports. There should be sports in school. It's a place to create a team with other kids. You learn how to work together. You exercise, which is great. Of course, there's a place for sports in school, but that's not for every child. Not every child wants to play sports. I certainly didn't want to play sports at all. I was like, this is boring. I wanted to make things, you know? And so there should be a space for all types of kids, because every kid's different and has a different skill set and has something else that they need.
What is your dating scenario then at the moment? Who are you dating? You single at that age?
No, at that age?
Yeah.
I'm thinking about now. I'm like,
At that age.
We're jumping into that. No, I was definitely like in the closet as a teenager. Really? I was not. I mean, it was the late 90s. There was just not. There were probably gay kids at my school, but no one was out. No one talked about it. You know, you would be made fun of relentlessly.
So how do you navigate that?
You just keep it quiet. It was all internal. It was all in my head. Just the fantasy of being in your head, that is a lot of teenage angst right there, because it is like all bottled up. And I think about teenagers now, and it's like such a different situation for them now. I'm so happy for where we're at, because it's still challenging. Teenagers are still mean to each other. It is still hard. It is, of course, certain parents reject their children for their sexuality. All that still exists, but it's different. It is different than what it was, because now there's visibility. But you know, there's like kids on TikTok and stuff, like doing, you know, boys doing like makeup tutorials, and they're like 15 and they're like, yes, queen. And it's like,
yeah,
oh, wow. If I had that, I would have been able to connect with other kids online, and I would not have felt as alone. I wouldn't have felt as weird. We didn't have that.
So you didn't know any queer people growing up?
I mean, I'm sure I did, but we didn't know we were queer. You know what I mean? I think there were other kids in the theater department, or in theater in high school, that were probably queer, and the choir department, in this children's theater group that I continued with as a teenager, but no one said it. And I think I hadn't even had my first kiss until I was 18.
Really?
Yeah, with a boy. I made out with a couple girls during high school, and I was like, well, this is kind of fun. Might as well. Placeholder, you know, whatever. And they were all Mormon girls, which was a trip. I went to
so niche.
I went to school with like with a big population of Mormon kids, and like the Mormon girls were like, that one, you know, he's not gonna get me pregnant. This is gonna work great. Mom and dad, whatever. Yeah.
So where was your first kiss with a girl then? Where was
in a car.
Was it?
Yeah, in a car. It was, and of course I got excited. It was
course.
exciting. It was still exciting. It was still physical touch, you know, and I was so like repressed that I was like, you know, oh my God, my heart rate's going up. I'm sweating. Yeah. And then there was like,
mine was on the boat.
I'm like, what if she's gonna want to have sex with me? What is that like? But then I'm like, oh, she's Mormon. We're good. we can keep it at making out, and that'll be where it's great. This is a perfect situation. And actually, one of the girls that happened with, I found out much later, years down the line, that she's gay. She turned out to be a lesbian. I'm like, well, this makes so much sense. We were like safe for each other.
So you had your first kiss at 18 with a guy. What was his name?
Oof. Ricky. No.
Martin.
Yeah, that would have been cute. No, was it Rich? I honestly don't. It started with an R.
But was that a?
It was terrifying because it was just like, finally, like I'd been thinking about, my whole teenage years. I was like, I knew,
yeah,
you know what I mean, but I wasn't acting on it.
I don't want to go. I just find that because you're in the car with Ricky, whoever it is, and you kiss, and then you go, okay, fine. It's an amazing moment, and then do you then say, right, well, I'm now, because how does coming out with your sexuality, that's a tough thing. So how does that then manifest itself? Do you then come out to your friends and family and sort of say, look?
I kind of came out before the kiss happened. Like I think I said to myself, okay, I'm going to deal with this eventually, but I kind of want to just wait until school's over. So I graduated high school and then was like, okay, it's probably time to come out. Like now I don't have to deal with like random kids that are dicks, you know what I mean? So I graduated high school. I came out to like my 3 best friends shortly after graduation one night, and we got wasted.
That's so
totally
cool,
drunk, in the backyard. I remember that. And then not that long after that, I think my little brother was doing like a speech and debate tournament at a college. So my mom came up and drove him and his speech and debate team, and we sat and we watched his thing. And then one of the other kids did like a dramatic interpretation, which is basically a monologue. And this monologue was heartbreaking about a young man who comes out to his parents and then is totally disowned by them. And like it's a downward spiral. He becomes homeless and drugs and, gets into a bunch of trouble. So it was like this cautionary tale type beautiful piece of monologue. And we got in the car on the way home, and of course it just hit my mom like guilt. Like she's like, okay, I have to talk to him about it. So she outed me. Wait. She was like, listen, so do you have a girlfriend? And I was like, you would know about it. No, of course I don't. And she goes, okay, do you want one? And I was like, I don't know. And she said, do you have a boyfriend? I said, no. And she said, do you want one? I said, yeah, that'd be nice. And so it was, and I felt her like this like weight just kind of like flew off of me, and I could tell it was just like such a long time coming. And I said to her, I was like, why didn't you ask me sooner? And she's like, well, when you were like 13, when we all knew, honey, we knew, I don't know if it was, like not clearing the search history on the computer, dial-up porn, if it was me singing the show tunes with, my sheet wrapped around me like a strapless gown. Like, there's a list of things that probably gave it away. But sheet drag is really hot. It's hot business, sheet drag. And I had leopard sheets because I needed cheetah print sheets. I mean, that probably should have gone away.
Yeah.
But I remember pulling the sheets off the bed and just like wrapping them around as a gown. And I just was like, yes. Singing Sunset Boulevard, Yeah, it was like painfully obvious. But my mom went to the Gay and Lesbian Center in San Diego where I grew up and said, well, what should I do? Like, my son's clearly a queen, but I don't want to, like, what do I say? What do I do? And they just said, let him come to you.
Wow.
So it's so cute that she went amazing. And like asked for help and asked for advice, and that's what they told her.
It's amazing. The reason why I'm sort of talking about it is because we live in a different time, as we know. But this, like we said, this was the 90s.
Yeah.
It was a different time.
So different. Even, luckily I was in Southern California, which is probably a better place to be than other places in the country, especially at that time. But yeah, I mean, San Diego was still pretty conservative, even though it's California. Like I think most people think of California as LA, but LA is LA. And San Francisco is San Francisco, but there's a lot of areas of California that are very conservative.
But then, can I ask a personal question? But then going to American Idol and doing that, and from what I understand, and maybe I'm wrong here, you kept your sexuality to yourself.
I didn't really. Everyone knew I was gay. I just didn't really like talk about it on air because it never came up. I mean, Ryan Seacrest never was like dick, like it just never, it wasn't a part of the narrative of what we were doing, but like everyone knew I was gay. It wasn't a secret.
Right.
I came out right after high school, like I said, 18, and I was 27 when I did Idol.
Sorry, that's because I saw there was a picture of you kissing your ex-boyfriend, and it went to the press, and it was in Fox,
so it wasn't a public thing that like, but that was the thing, is that I had been living for nearly 10 years in LA as an out gay man, living my life.
before you arrived, I watched your audition for American Idol. Have you rewatched it?
I've seen it numerous times, yeah.
What is your critique on it now?
I was really nervous.
Because you seemed a little bit nervous.
I was definitely really nervous, yeah, because there was so much writing on it. Like, you have to understand that I had been doing theater for like almost 10 years in LA.
Yeah.
And like, I'd gotten to a point where like, I finally had booked like a really good professional job. I was in the first national tour of Wicked.
Yeah.
So the first company that they formed after the Broadway production. I did that for 6 months, and then I left. And then a year or two later, they formed a resident LA company of the show. And that was really rare to have like sit down, like Broadway productions in LA. It was very, very few and far between. And I got that gig. And so I was working daily at the Pantages Theater in Wicked as Firo's understudy. So it's like the prince's understudy. So I'm also in the ensemble. Basically means I was the guy in the back screaming my balls off, you know, for the notes for no credit. No one saw me. They just heard me. Like, ah! But it was a great job, you know, and it was like being able to get paid like good money to do theater in LA was such a treat, because it was hard to find that kind of theater in LA. And I had been toying for years about, oh, I should finally move to New York. That's where the real theater is, blah, blah, but I was scared of it. I knew I didn't have the money. This was going to be sort of my preset to go to New York, to get in there and to save up some coin. But then each time that one of the guys that playing Firo would get, you know, when his contract would be up or he was sick, it's like they wouldn't promote me. And I started I was like, I know I'm good at this part. What the hell's going on? And it was some politics and this and that and the other thing. And I was just so frustrated that I was like, you know what? If I got on TV, I bet they would take me seriously. So I'm gonna get on TV. And that summer before I actually auditioned, I went to Burning Man for the 4th time. And I tripped on acid and had this amazing experience where I saw my fear in front of me for the first time, like as a physical manifestation. Up until that point, I was always coming up with excuses not to do things. I was always getting in my own way. I was self-sabotaging. I was always that guy that would like not take a risk, whether it would be like dating or whatever. I was just scared. And when I was in the desert in this moment by myself, I like saw my fear. I heard the voice of some higher power, and it was like, this is your fear, kick it away. And I kicked it away and I saw it like shoot across the desert floor. And I swear I got back from that Burning Man trip and I was like fearless.
Get out of here.
It was crazy. I was like, I'm going to say yes to everything. I'm going to quit saying no and coming up with excuses. I'm going to say yes to everything. I got to put my eggs in more than one basket. I just got to go for it, because I was a little stuck at that point. And it changed everything. It changed my entire attitude. So I was like, yeah, TV, that's what I should do so that they take me seriously. Now I can actually have the balls to do it. So I auditioned for American Idol, and I got to the first round. I got past it. Then there was like a second round for producers and a third round. And this, what you see on TV, was the 4th time coming back for an audition.
Singing the same thing?
A couple different things, but yeah, more or less. And in order to get in front of the TV judges at this point, the producers came to me and they're like, well, so here's the deal. You can't have any professional contracts that are in play. You can't be signed to an agent, a manager. You can't be employed by a theater or a record company. Like, you have to be like on amateur status. So I had to quit Wicked. I had to quit my job, which I was doing for 8 shows a week. That's how I paid my rent. That's how I got health insurance, all of it. I had to quit for that chance to sing for Paula, Randy, and Simon and Kara that year. So that's why I was nervous. I was like, oh man, if I don't get this, I'm going to be pissed. Like, this is going to suck, because I just quit my job.
Did you have doubt in your mind at that point, or were you just like?
Of course, I like had the like, what if they, but it was like, it was like the moment I was like, well, this better work out, because if it doesn't, I'm going to be screwed.
Do you think though, giving advice to people who are listening, right? And because a lot of people, probably so many of your fans, but also people who are probably in similar situations where they feel stuck. And feeling stuck is a really shit thing. And a lot of us feel it all the time. Yeah. And actually, I completely agree with you. It's that fear of what's going to happen that stops us from achieving stuff, right? And it's cheesy, but you have to take risks. Yeah. Someone told me something once: to get something you never had, you have to do something you never did.
Yeah. It's the risk is worth the reward. That is the tried and true statement. Like if you aren't willing to take the risk, you're not going to make it to what you actually want. It's not going to happen.
Yeah, and ease is a greater threat to progress than hardship.
Ooh, I like that one.
Yeah, if it's easy, you just stay where you are.
Yeah.
You don't
complacent.
Boom.
Yeah.
Here we go. You have to make it difficult for yourself.
And then if that is the path that you take of just the complacency, you turn around 5-10 years later and you're miserable and you don't know why. And you're like, everything's kind of, I'm like, because you're not challenging yourself with anything new. You're not, goal setting and reaching goals. Like if you're just at a plateau for years and years and years at a time, of course you're bored.
If someone now is listening to this and is saying, oh, I'm afraid to move, I'm afraid to take risks, I'm afraid for all these things because of my insecurities or whatever, what do you say to them?
Get the fuck over it. That's really what I would say in the nicest way possible. But I would also say like, okay, let's look at that. Like what are you actually scared of? Because a lot of people can't admit it to themselves. That's the first step. Like you got to be able to like be real with yourself and look in the mirror and be like, what am I scared of? And we have our egos, our pride. These things keep us from actually being able to see it. And that's what you got to look at first. It's like you got to figure out a way to break through that ego, that pride thing, because it's gnarly. Like it can keep you from moving forward like terribly. I mean, it's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard. And like the thing that's funny about ego and pride is that it's a double-edged sword because sometimes they can be good things in your toolkit. Sometimes having a healthy ego gives you self-respect
and drives.
And drives you and makes you want to fight for yourself and makes you want things for yourself and stand up for yourself. Like it's not a terrible thing to have an ego and to have pride, but it's that like balance of it.
Music, I find, is a place where sometimes you have to take risks.
For sure.
And that is a really hard space to take risks because you then have everything to lose.
Yeah. Well, especially if you're a solo artist, because it's all you. It's your brand. You're the name of the project. You're the face of the project. It becomes very difficult to separate yourself from your work in the music industry. It's very hard. Actors, of course, they have their own set of things that they run into as challenges, but like they're playing a part. They can but that's the character.
And someone's and maybe I'm being harsh here, but you're being hired. You're not being hired.
Yeah, exactly.
Most actors are hired from job to job, right?
Yeah.
And
they're part of a cast and a crew, and it's one cog in a wheel. Even the lead actor on a major film, he's like part of a team. And I will say that in music, there is a team. I'm like, if you don't have a good team, you're not getting anywhere. So that does exist in music, but there's a lot of responsibility on your shoulders as the face of the project.
Because I feel like your new music that you're releasing is like, you sort of describe it as like it's yourself. This is you. This is like, it feels different to your other stuff.
It feels, it's less filtered, if I'm going to be honest. Like, I think...
Explain that. What do you mean less filtered?
Well, I think when I first came off of American Idol, there was all this hype and buzz, which was really exciting. I had like such a great experience on that show. It was really fun. I loved the challenge of it. I loved the excitement of it. It was like, there were magazine articles being written as
Did you like the fame of it?
The beginning taste of it, I was like, ooh, this is exciting.
Yeah.
Then the reality of it, I think coming off of the show and dealing with controversy and dealing with like people's opinions and comment sections, there was a flip side to it that very quickly I was like, whoa. What I realized now is you really have to have a thick skin.
Yeah.
It is not for the faint of heart. It's not for, if you have any sort of self-worth struggles that you've been dealing with, confidence, it exacerbates all that. Like all of a sudden you start picking your own self apart and you become your own worst nightmare. It can happen. And I've definitely had my moments with it. I've also had like a lot of fun with it. And there's a lot of access and there's a lot of adventures and I have memories and I've met amazing people. So like, it's not bad, but there's been some bad. I think, the other problem too is that when I came off of Idol, like it was just the beginning of Twitter. So like social media was really quickly changing. Like this was 2009. We had Facebook and we had gotten sort of the MySpace thing had already sort of happened, but we didn't have Instagram. Twitter was brand new. And that was sort of the big revolutionary thing. So just that instantaneous being able to have an opinion on something, you know, and post it, that was very fresh, that sort of exchange and public discourse. And it was hard. It was really hard because I wasn't used to that. I wasn't used to going out on a Friday night and like seeing comments, reviewing what I was wearing. Like that was new.
What kind of things were people saying?
Some people were like, yes, queen, live, you know. Some people were like, yes, I love him. But there were a lot. I mean, it was foul, some of it. It was really foul because I was daring to be gay and like, and a weirdo gay at the on top of it. I wasn't like the guy in the lumberjack outfit, you know, like, you know, that looked all masculine and sort of like, you know, that because that was the sentiment back then. In 2010, there was like a movement in gay visibility and in the progress that we were making was, we're just like you, but we're gay. We look just like you, but we're gay. Look at us. I'm a man just like you, but I'm gay. You know, so there's this whole thing in an effort to be accepted by the mainstream. And it was like a necessary like move and step toward progress. But I think I was always like, well, fuck that. Like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to assimilate and sort of.
That's that risk taker again.
Yeah. I mean, I'm like, but I like this outfit. It's cool. And it's the kid playing dress up in the mirror when he was 10 still, just getting to do it with a budget.
But then that, you know, if we go deeper on it, then that obviously leads to anxiety and
for sure.
Self-doubt.
Oh, for sure.
And, you know, America is big.
Yeah.
And it has a lot of voices. And it's tough. You know, UK's tough, but it's a bit smaller, you know, all those different things. And being famous over there and, you know, having all of those choices. You know, I read that you started having panic attacks and you had to handle, that's a lot to handle.
Yeah, it was a lot. It was a lot. It was also, you know, it was a combination of things. It was, you know, also being burned out because of this business is also very demanding and you like want to keep saying yes to everything so that you're not the guy that's difficult or you don't want to turn around also and realize that like you didn't do enough, you know? So like it puts you in this headspace of being like, got to say yes to everything. You got to like, you can't say, you know, it's pressure.
Because you think the fear of it going?
For a long time, it was that was the thing that killed me. It was that I thought the rug is going to get pulled out for me any minute. And like, this is, you know, coming off of a show like Idol, like not that many people make it past a year or two out of that show. And so like by year 2 or 3, I went, oh God, is this like, am I still in the game? Is this really, do I have a shot at this? Is there any staying power in this? And I didn't know. And that was really nerve wracking.
Yeah.
You know, it felt like this is my game to lose kind of a thing. Like only me can fuck this up was sort of the pressure that I was putting on myself. And I think one of the things that you know, fast forwarding to sort of the last few years of where I'm at now is I did a lot of work on reprioritizing a bit, trying to understand that like I continue to want to focus and put a lot of energy into my career. And that's still a big priority for me. But I was like, I got to balance this out with some sort of like life.
Yeah.
I have to be able to have some play. I have to have that work play balance. It was sucking the joy out of the work. And I was like, well, that's not good. Like it needs to be fun. It's like I make music for a living. Like that's not brain surgery. It's fun.
And well done to you. That's the hardest thing. I always think to find that juggling. Yeah. Especially in this industry because it's the fear that it's going to go. It's the fear that you have to say yes to everything and then everything just becomes so much. And actually you're right. You then are just, there's no joy.
No.
And it's funny with burnout, right? People talk about it and suddenly people go, oh, I'm so burnt out.
It's a thing.
It's a fucking thing.
It's a thing.
And I experienced it where mine was beginning of lockdown and I just lost all joy in anything.
I had that's when I was burnt out before lockdown started. Like the end of 2019, I was fried. I was like, whoa. Yeah. Collectively, everyone was kind of in the rut. So like, I think that affected all of us. Like we all felt it. You could feel it, you know? Yeah. I mean, in America, we had like some crazy shit going on. I mean, the whole Black Lives Matter movement that kicked up during the pandemic was for many specific reasons, and it was overdue, and it was a really important movement. But I do think that state of mind that people were in during the pandemic sort of allowed us to hold space for that. And there was less distractions for us to actually look at the problem and to get angry about it and actually to get involved, because there's nothing else to do. And it was like, this is an injustice. This is really, and we're seeing it more clearly right now because the world's kind of quiet right now. So all of a sudden you could really see it. And I remember like in the streets of LA, they're like right down the street from, like down the hill from where I live, like I could see there were riots going on. There was cars on fire. It was wild. And it was, there was a collective frustration and angst that you could feel. And then, I don't know about you, but like you would go on like Zoom with your friends, and like everyone was on edge. Everybody was. For me, it was a break that I needed for perspective and to reprioritize. And then when I started consciously putting time into creative projects during that period, I felt better.
Your new EP, Afters, is coming out. And this is coming out. It's July by the time this comes out, so it's probably out now.
Yes, this is July.
This is July.
We're in July.
This is July. Tell me about it.
What is this? What day is today? July what?
No. Hey, listen, we're just in someday.
Someday in July.
Someday in July right now. But tell me about it. Were you... Do you... I mean, what am I asking here? Do you love creating music? Is that your real joy? That's everything.
I love it. And I love performing it.
Yeah.
It depends on the type of song or the moment that we're talking about, but sometimes it's more fun creating it than actually even getting on the stage and actually performing it. And sometimes it's the other way around, but
so the writing process and everything, you love that.
The act of creation, like the moment where some idea comes into your head and then you make it, is really cool.
Really?
It's a really satisfying thing. And then, of course, getting to share it and getting appreciated for it, that's great. That's like your ego loves getting stroked, and you're like,
and the process.
And it's not just, and it's also how it affects people is really cool. Like seeing how your art inspires the audience, whether it makes them cry or laugh or dance or whatever, like that's really satisfying as well. That like what you made is affecting people. But that moment of creation, like I've heard it said that that's like God is creation, right? So like when the idea comes to your head and you say it and it becomes something real, that's magic time.
Yeah, but that brings you back to your childhood when you go to your room and you just create.
That's why
you like that.
Yeah. And that's the thing that you can't lose as a creative. You have to keep that childlike impulse of just, did it come to your head? What is it? Like, and not judging it, not overthinking it or standing in its way. It's like just letting the impulse sort of have a free, clear path.
So how do you as a creative keep staying creative? How do you do that? How do you keep moving that barrier, moving that goalpost to make it always
I think
new?
with this project, with Afters, what I realized was there's so many less rules than there used to be. The rules have changed.
But is that because you've changed? Is that because you don't?
Probably, it's probably a combo.
Because you're more confident in yourself,
the industry has changed a lot, and as like a queer person making music, there were a lot of obstacles that I had to sort of like dodge for many years. It was like everyone's opinions, and it's like all I wanted to do always was like I just wanted to make my shit. That's all I wanted. But when you the rude awakening of coming off of Idol, which I was so excited, oh my God, I'm getting signed to a major label, this is so cool, I'm gonna make an album. All of a sudden you have a lot of people to answer to, because it's their money, it's not your money. So the capitalism part of it starts to mess with the creative part of it, and this is like nothing new. We all know this, that this is sort of like the art and commerce dichotomy is like, we all know what it is. Like it's always been that way for all creative people. But it was a bit sad kind of realizing it. It was a bit depressing, like realizing, okay, this is not going to be exactly what I thought it was going to be. It's a bit of a game.
So to go cheesy for a second, if you thought about little Adam in his room dressing up and then him seeing where you are now, do you think he'd be shocked?
I don't know what he'd be. I think he'd be like, what the fuck is that? Like, I think there would be a lot of what's that? Like, what's he doing with that? You know, what's he doing with that? You know? That's so long ago. It's such a lifetime ago. That's what's so interesting.
But it's still part of you.
100%. 100%. And like, I've done a little bit of therapy. I have. And like that inner child stuff, that's really important work to do. And it's so long ago. I've healed a lot of the stuff I needed to heal. I haven't healed everything, but like I definitely have like made peace with a lot of the things that I needed to make peace with, which is probably why I'm in a place now where like I feel like there's forward motion. I feel good. I feel good. Of course there's challenges. Of course things piss me off and annoy me. Of course, you know. I mean, I think as you get older, that's the other thing too, is like you're more set in your ways, so it's easier to get like annoyed by things because you're like that is, you know. But I also am like seeing the value of the hard work now. I'm seeing the payoff of it. I'm seeing that things are possible if you just kind of like focus a little bit. And I'm really grateful for that work-play balance thing that I needed.
Tell me about the new music.
So I'm putting out an EP right now around this time this month. July 19th, the release date. May have happened already, may not have. It's called Afters. Yeah. So I wanted to create music that sort of was a soundtrack for an after party that I would have at my house. And I've become pretty notorious for having after parties. I've got a good house in LA. It's a big party house. And I was like, you know, I just want to make a project that sounds like my social life, that has zero filter, that's like the kind of like the lyrics are like the kind of conversation I would either have with my lover or with my friends about my lover, or you know, kind of BS that you get into with a group of friends when you're out having drinks and like you're talking about sex and boys, and I like that's what I want the album to be. So yeah, the first single that came out is called Lube. The second single is called Wet Dream. The next single was Cunty. Yeah, and it's a little nasty, and it's like, you know, my favorite musicians all have that period in their careers.
Love that.
Prince did it. Madonna definitely did it. You know, everyone get to do your little nasty era, and I think this is my nasty era.
What's your favorite track from it?
Oh God, I'm like, there's 6 tracks. I really love all of them. Honestly, that sounds kind of
that's
diplomatic,
great.
But I really love all of them.
Really?
Yeah. They all kind of serve a different purpose.
Who's one of the funnest people that's walked through your door to have an after party with you?
I had a lot of random people show up at my house for afters. Charlie XCX came to an afters.
She's great.
Once. Like, it was a long time ago, but she was there. One time, these Brits, so I'll name the Brit people that randomly, I was having a Halloween party years ago at a hotel, like a hotel collaboration, came back to my house afterwards. I walk into my kitchen and Lily Allen is sitting on the island in my kitchen. I don't know Lily Allen. I've never met her in my life. And I had on like full like werewolf makeup. I was like in a full transformation. I had like hair glued to my face and yellow contacts and teeth and like a wig. You could not recognize me. I looked bizarre. And I walked up to her, I'm like, hey. And she was like, hi, like kind of like weirded out by how scary I was. And I'm like, no, it's my house. And she's like, oh, cool. And I'm like, I'm Adam. And she goes, Adam. I'm like, Lambert. She goes, oh, great. And I was like, yeah, it's kind of hard to see with with the hair on my face. But yeah, she ended up being very sweet.
Does that mean I can come to an after party?
Of course.
Great.
Especially if you're in a costume.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fine.
Yeah.
I've loved, dude, every minute of this. This is
likewise.
Man, it's been so...
It's been like, I didn't know where we were going to go with this, but we went.
Dude,
we went in.
I told you. We end with 8 questions.
Okay. So
be as honest as you can. What's a saying or phrase that makes you smile or cheers you up?
Do you know what I mean? Do you know what I mean? Do you know what I mean? Like here in the UK, I love that. Do you know what I mean? It's unbelievable. It's like one word. Yeah.
So good.
And there's a cousin of it in Australia. It's hey gang. Hey gang. Hey gang. You know what I mean? Hey gang. Yeah.
Best compliment anyone's ever given you?
Yeah. was like the best sex I've ever had. I mean, who doesn't want to hear that? Who does not want to hear that? Even though half the time you're like, bullshit, you know? It's a good compliment.
I don't think I've ever had that. I've never had that.
I've had it a couple times. Just a few.
Can I share this? Yeah, I could. I remember when I was young and I was experimenting and I was with this girl and I was like trying out different things. And I remember it was honestly one of the worst moments of life, but I was doing something. She said, "You might as well stop that." Because it's not doing anything.
Thank you for her, though.
Yeah.
Thank you for her. Thank you for the guidance.
17 years old and being told that is not...
That's a tough one. You were probably bright red in the face. Yeah.
Whoa, is it not? Okay.
This whole time, I thought that's what it was. Yeah, exactly.
What scares you most about yourself?
That's a good question. That's a good one. Like, I'm trying to think.
Maybe there's nothing.
No, I think I get scared that I won't be able to find the joy in things. Because I'm like constantly making sure I'm finding the joy in things. And like, I think it scares me to like think of a time, like, you know, if the joy runs out about something, like, what if I just don't love this anymore? Like, what happens then?
That
scares me.
Yeah, that is a great one.
Yeah. Because you see it.
Yeah.
People, yeah.
And
I've been in like moments of like scraping the barrel a little bit. Yeah.
I totally understand that. When was the last time you cried and why?
Oh, I'm like a blubbering baby at the slightest sentimental movie. I'm like, I don't cry. I actually cannot remember the last time I cried in a life situation.
That's that resilience. Just hold.
I don't know what it is.
Yeah,
I don't know. I kind of wish I would cry more with people, you know, but it's with film and TV. I'm like, the other day, like literally 2 nights ago, I was like,
yeah, because that's your excuse, your place to be able to cry.
Great.
Yeah,
I love it. I love having
this.
a good cry. I think I was watching the finale of this series, We Were the Lucky Ones on Hulu. It's about like a family that survived the Holocaust. And it was just like, you know, really heavy. But the ending was really uplifting. And I was just like, it's so beautiful.
What's something you can't let go of?
I'm like a fashion hoarder. I have so much shit in my closet. I'm a hoarder with clothes.
I like that. What's the pettiest thing you've ever done?
Pettiest? That's a long story. I don't know if I can wrap that up for this podcast. I'm not usually a very petty person, to be honest. I can let things go really easily, but every once in a while, if someone has like wronged me, I'll be like, yeah, I'm gonna get back at them. But it's very rare.
It's very rare. What turns you off?
Stupidity.
Great one. What turns you on?
Humor and intelligence.
What do you like most about yourself?
I can talk to anybody. I like that ability.
Bonus one, last one. What's your favorite swear word?
Cunt.
Everyone goes for it.
It's a good one.
It's great.
It's a good one. Yeah. Because it's like one of the few left that have some shock value.
It's so true.
Yeah.
Adam, thank you so much for coming with great company. That was amazing.
You.
I loved that.
It was a nice chat. Thank you very much. Yeah. Cheers. Yay.